Well, good morning, folks. Got another little segment here for you. As you can see, I'm not wearing my puffy. I'm out of Massachusetts. I'm down here, my southern homestead here, thawing out. Got a little bit cold and snowy up north, so we're going to finish my prepping and my conditioning down here in the Sunshine State. So today is part one of probably part two or part three. We'll see how I break it up. But today I'm going to do my my big three, and I'll go over what I'm using, what I upgraded this year. But basically, it's the same gear I've used over the years. So it's kind of a post gear list slash pre gear list for the Appalachian Trail. Post being again what I've used on my other trips, and I kind of have my gear dialed in. I did upgrade as far as new name brand, but the equipment is the same. So let me go over. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, well, I'll show you what I've done. So like this year, actually last fall, I had been using the Z-Pack, and I just had too many issues with it. It just didn't work for me. So I switched to the Mariposa. This is by Gossamer Gear. This is the Mariposa 60, and I really like this pack. This pack comes in at 2 pounds. Pretty much the same size, same weight as the Z-Pack, except I like the layout better on this one here. You have dual pockets on your, I guess this would be your right side when it's on your back. You got water bottles down here, and then up here is where I put all my water filtration. Everything that has to do with that goes up here in this pocket. And on the opposite side, you have this huge, I mean, it almost goes, look at, it goes right up to my elbow here. This pocket, which is, like I said, it's huge. I put my tent here, which is, if I use the Z-Pack duplex, that whole tent goes in here with the stakes and the ground cloth. That all fits in here nicely. And then on this trip, right now, I'm going to be using my Dutch Wear Chameleon hammock and my hammock gear Cuban fiber winter top with the doors. That's what I have planned for this trip, the Thru-Hike of the AT. Now, the reason I'm going with the hammock versus the tent is I come from New England. I've hiked a lot in New England. I've hiked from Tennessee, from Springer to Tennessee, and I found that I have just so many more options with the hammock. To find that perfect tent site, especially if you're going to be in the bubble, it's going to be difficult, and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to race to a camping area, designated camping area, to beat the crowd in order to get a decent spot. With a hammock, I don't have to even go to the campsites and designated shelters. I just go off trail at the end of the day, find 2 trees and hang. I like that option a lot. It's worked out really good for me in the past. So I'm gonna. This is my method, my option for the AT. Now out west, no, I won't take the hammock. I've always taken my tent because the conditions out there favor tenting. I believe the conditions on the East Coast favor hammocking, especially when you get up into New England. Prime tent sites are few and far between, especially when you get into the good weather, and now you're competing with the weekenders and the people who just have a week off and they're just hitting the same trail that you're going to be trying to hit. With the hammock, I just, again, as long as I'm below tree line, I just walk into the woods a couple of 100 feet, and I find beautiful spots. So I'm going to go with the hammock. It's a little bit heavier. I typically come in, my hammock system is 2 pounds heavier than my tent system. But that 2 pounds just triples my options. So I'm going to get into that in a minute. I'll show you that. So this is we'll get back to the Mariposa here. This pack is, so far, I'm really happy. I've added some bungees here because I like to hang stuff off my pack. I may be taking my beer canister, haven't decided yet because of the bear problems up north. And actually, from the whole East Coast, there's been the last several years a substantial uptick in encounters, and a lot of people have lost their food. Now the bears, the last 2 years, have been breaking into tents with people in their tent because they're sleeping with their food. It could be because they get into camp late, they're tired, it's rainy, they're cold, and they just don't feel like going out there and hanging their food in those conditions, so they opt to sleep with their food. Big mistake. Because now we're teaching the bears that, hey, not only is there food in a bag in a tree, we also have food now in our tent. And so now we've opened up another Pandora box, and we're inviting them into our tent. So that's another reason why I'm probably going to stay away from the designated camping areas, because that's where you're going to have the problems. When you stealth camp, these bears, they use their nose to dictate where they're going. So if you stealth camp and there's nobody, it's not a designated area, excuse me, chances you having a problem are very slim. I've had bear come into my stealth areas, and because they're sniffing around, but they don't find anything, and they just move on. I just kind of yell at them, hey, get out of here, and they just move on. That's what I have found. So that's what I'm going to do along the trail. I just don't want to have an issue. So I'm really leaning towards taking my beer canister. That way there, when I get into camp late, and being early in the spring, we're going to have weeks and weeks of rain, cold rain. I'm going to be wet. I'm going to just want to get in my hammock, get out of my wet clothes, get in my hammock. I don't want to have to fool around and try to find a tree, which again, that perfect tree, they are very far apart. It's really hard to find that perfect tree. So with a beer canister, I just walk out 100 feet, put it down on the ground, and I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. And for 2 pounds, it's like carrying an extra day's worth of food. I mean, no big deal. And I've been doing this for a while anyway. Usually every weekend when I go up north hiking through the Whites, I always take my beer canister. It just eliminates a lot of mental stress. And I sleep fine. I mean, let them come in, let the bears come in. They're going to sniff. They've come right up to my hammock and my tent. They just sniff around. If they don't smell anything, they're just going to keep right on going. We were in the Smokies several years ago, and the ranger kept coming around. We were on a motorcycle touring, and we were camping with our tents. And the ranger, he must have came around 3 times one afternoon. Make sure you hang your food. There was bears here. Make sure you hang your food. So we hung our food, and sure than heck, I had to pee about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so, you wake up and you just lay there. Oh, do I have to crawl out of this tent? And I'm sitting there and I'm hearing crunch, 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 crunch. And I could hear the bear coming out of the woods, and he was just, stepping on twigs, and it was getting louder and louder. And then I heard him sniffing and walking right around our tent. He went right around our tent at night, and I have to pee really bad, and this bear is like outside our tent. It's like, oh shit. So we had hung our food. The bear did his little routine, walk through, went to the other tent, sniffed around them, our buddies, and then the bear just took off. And about 30 minutes later, I ventured out of my tent to do my thing. But, as long as, but if you're sleeping with your food and they get any kind of a scent, a candy bar, anything, they are not afraid now to come into the tent with you there. That's why they're closing a lot of these tent sites now, because the bears are getting too aggressive. If they were just coming into camp getting bear bags, they would just have signs everywhere, you know, make sure you hang your food. But when they start entering tents, then you need to close the area, because they're getting, you know, there's a chance it could be a serious issue. So I know I just got off the subject a little bit there, but keep that in mind. Bear canister is going to be the thing in the next year or two, or maybe, you know, they're going to be requiring it very, very shortly, just because people are not practicing safe food storage, and it's just creating another problem. So this bag here, that's what these bungees are for, is to hold my bear canister. I don't want it inside. It's a pack of, it's only a 60 liter, so it's not going to, it's really not going to hold it right. I like it up here. It works out really well. So I'm very, very happy with this. So this will be my pack of choice. My hammock again, let me get over here on this side. My hammock again is the Dutch Wear Chameleon, and I have the bug net on it, and I leave the bug net on it year round. I just find it's a pain in the neck to unzip it and put the winter cover on it. Instead of the winter cover, I have a sock. I have a hammock sock, which comes from Dutch Wear, and it's like just what it is. It's a sock that just goes right over my whole hammock setup, and it has a little section. It has no seam on it, so at night, if it's really cold, you put the no seam strip over your head so that your exhaust goes out and it doesn't get trapped inside the sock, because then you'll end up with moisture all inside. I have never, ever had moisture problems when I hammock. Now, tenting, that's another whole other issue. So that's another reason why I'm going with my hammock. I just never had any moisture problems. So that's what this is. It's my winter sock. And this, if it's a windy night, this keeps the wind from blowing underneath my hammock, zapping my body in my sleep system from the warmth that my body has created. So this has worked out very well. If it's a rainy night, this keeps the splash from coming up, hitting the bottom of my hammock. So that's what this is right here. This bag right here. It's this is my hammock, and I have it all set up. This little orange thing right here tells me that this is my head end, because of the way I have my bag set up on my ridge line. I usually have in here a little tiny pin light. You see them, they're about the size of a quarter. And I use that at night as a night light if whatever I'm doing inside my hammock. That sits on my ridge line, which is right over my head. And then I have my earplugs in here too. So that everything is in here. It's all set up to go. This is my bag of straps and my beetle clips. Everything is from Dutch Wear. I have the 12-foot straps. I don't remember the name of them. It's the straps that came with this whole system here, the chameleon system. But I keep this here all together, and I have extra lines in here so I can tie out my rain fly. So if it's really windy, that rain fly isn't blowing into my hammock. It's all tied out. This here is my hammock gear, 12-foot Cuban fiber rain top with the doors. It's got the attached doors to it. This thing is, look how small it rolls down to, and it only comes in like at 7 ounces or something. It's incredibly light. If that, probably 6 ounces. I'll weigh it here at some point. But yeah, very, very light. And then this is my bag of stakes. I have 8 stakes. Now I've gone, over the years, I've tried them all. The shepherd hooks, I've tried the diamond shape, I've tried the V, I've tried these here, like I said, the shepherd hooks, these here, these don't hold. When you get into soft peat, these things just, they come right out. The thing that I have found for the last 2 years, well, year and a half, I guess, I've switched to these here aircraft aluminum 8-inch tube stakes. I get these from Hypergear up in Maine. Yeah, Hypergear from Maine. They're the only ones that are carrying these. They're super light. They're like a ½ ounce each. I carry 8 of these, and these hold in the softest peat moss. I've driven these into the frost, the frozen ground. I've used these out west in the hard pan. Shoved them in between rocks that are in the ground. These things, I really, really like these. These stakes here, I've never had one pull out on me. And these are the same stakes that I use when I use the Duplex 10 also. This bag whatever shelter I'm using, this here bag will go with that equipment. So this is what I'm using. I do bring 4 of these because I do have a ground cloth that I put underneath my hammock so that I can step out of my hammock barefoot and not have to step in mud, leaves, and all that kind of stuff. So I do have 4 of these that I put in the corner so that the wind doesn't blow my ground cloth away. And also I use this here for the ground cloth underneath my Duplex. I use the Krylon clear sheet as a ground cloth, and it's very, very light. If there's any kind of a breeze, you can't keep that thing down to the ground. So what I do is I stake out the 4 corners, and then it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so I usually keep those in here also, 4 of those with eight of these here, and this is my little pack. The other piece of gear, which is part of my big 3, is this time of year, well, I'm leaving at the end of March, and so I'm not going to typically be in midwinter conditions. It'll be cold, but not cold enough where I need to have an underquilt, especially when I'm using my winter sock here. I really, really like my air mattress in my hammock. And this is the X-Ped, and this is the insulated, it's 3.3 R rating, and I can still lay it a diagonal with my air mattress, and with the air mattress, it turns my hammock into a mattress. I'm a side sleeper, and I have no banana issues at all. My hammock, when I lay in my hammock, it's flat, and I really, really, really like the air mattress. Also, if I have to go into a shelter because we have a high wind issue, a storm, severe thunderstorm coming through, the shelters would be the safest in case a tree or a limb comes down. I don't want to be out in my hammock and get hit with one of those. So this allows me to go into the shelter and sleep comfortable on the wooden floor. Also, I can go to ground. If I'm on a ball, then I just want, and you know, I mean, I got to go quite a ways to get to trees, and it's a nice night, and I just want to be out in the opening. This allows me to go to ground. So I'm an opponent of bringing an air mattress. So this replaces my underquilt. So this is my, again, the X-Ped long, wide, insulated air mattress. This is the X-Ped. They call this the snizzle. And what you do is you just fill it with air. I'm sure you've seen these. And you just attach this to the air mattress. You squeeze, and probably 4 of these will pump this right up in a minute or 2. At the end of the day, I just don't have the energy to be blown into this thing. So I use the snizzle. Now this snizzle also is my dry, because it holds air, it's pretty much watertight. I mean, if I go like this, if I go like this, you can see, I mean, it's holding the pressure, so it's watertight. This is what I use to store my top quilt in. I put my top quilt in here, I squeeze it down, I squeeze all the air out of it, and basically this is what my underquilt will end up being, and it's only about 2 inches thick, and this goes right on the bottom of my backpack. So this is how I store my top quilt. Now the top quilt I'm going with, this is new for me. I just got this late fall. I've only taken this out a couple of times. This is the Enlightened Enigma 10 degree 900 down top quilt. This thing, look at the loft. I'm sure you can see the loft on this thing. I mean, this thing is incredibly warm. But being a top quilt, I can just throw the top off to the side if I get warm. I'm going to bring this right through the whole trail. So this here top quilt's been worked out very, very fine, very, very well for me. I'm really, really happy with it. So all my gear here, my big 3, is coming in at 9 pounds. I'm a couple of pounds heavier than probably the average, but that's because I have the hammock set up. I'm 2 pounds heavier with the hammock than I am with the tent. I think I said that earlier. So, but I'm for me, it's worth it. So that's it. This is my top 3, and I will the next segment. I will get into my layers. I'm going to get into my clothes, my sleeping clothes, all my hiking clothes, and then my cold weather clothes that I will be taking. And I'll lay that out and give you an idea of how I'm going to prepare for the cold. Now, leaving the end of March, going into April, you know, you have to prepare for winter weather. I looked at historical weather for that time period. Average lows are 35 and average highs are 53. But you need to plan 20 degrees on either end because they're average. So, you know, average, you're going to have colder days, you're going to have warmer days, colder evenings, warmer evenings. So I figure 20 degrees whenever I look at a trip. I try to figure out, this trip though is 6 months long, so there's going to be some overlap in your layering system. It's just part of it, unless you send stuff back and forth, and I'm not going to get involved in that, because when you get to Vermont, towards the middle, the end of August, yeah, down here it's hot, but up in New England our temperatures start to go down. So you'll be getting into the 50s and upper 40s the end of August up north in the mountains. So you need to prepare for that. And you can have, you know, you can have 80-degree days too. So it's a huge 40-degree span or more when you get up north. So again, you're going to have cold weather, and you're going to have warm weather. You just take off the layers. So, but you want to prepare for those cold, wet conditions, because that's where you could still get hypothermia at 50 degrees. You've been hiking in the upper 80s all day, you get hit with a cold rain, you can get hypothermia really fast. So you need to still prepare for that, even though it's going to be summertime in August. And so I'll get into all that later. If you have any questions, just go below, leave your remarks, and I'll try to answer them. Or if there are a lot of questions, I will do a whole video just on answering the questions that you might have. So till then, be safe. And we're counting down 37 from the time that you see this here. Okay? All right, see you folks. Bye.